I want to do a review.
What's up, everyone? And it's time for a quick out of the theater review for Saw X. This is a movie I was a little bit excited for, but not super hyped because honestly, we've had a couple of these Saw movies here in the last few years, and I haven't really found one that I loved in a while. I thought that Jigsaw was pretty bad, and I thought that this last one with Chris Rock, Spiral, it was okay, but very predictable. And then going back to even the final chapter, wasn't a huge fan of that one. So even though I love the franchise, I've reviewed every movie in the franchise, after about 5 or 6 of them, they started to kind of go downhill. And this day and age, all these years later, to hear that they're going to do one that takes place between 1 and 2, bringing back John Kramer, bringing back Tobin Bell, bringing back Amanda. Okay, interesting enough, but I don't have high expectations for it. But I just walked out the theater, and I'm here to tell you, that's the best Saw movie in many years. You got to go back to the Saw heyday, back to the 2000s to find anything that compares to what I just saw. And now I'm going to have to consider where this would be in a ranking, because this movie was amazing. And this might be the best story building of any Saw movie, where you actually have a movie that starts off somewhat relatively tame here, and you get to follow John Kramer in his actual life and battling cancer and all that and what he's going through. And you get some very interesting character development, not only for John Kramer, but for some of these other characters, and some of who end up in traps a little bit later, and now it has so much more meaning. There's so much more to it here when they're in the traps later on and shit hits the fan. There's much more substance, and it makes the story so interesting. And to add to that, you have an interesting story, and you also have all the stuff that you're looking for in a Saw movie. There are twists and turns. You don't know what's coming. Not super predictable like the last couple of movies. And the traps in this movie are freaking nuts. And in some cases, too over the top, in my opinion. Too ridiculous. I'll talk about that a little bit later when I get to my spoiler review. Maybe a little bit more in the non-spoiler. But some of the traps I thought were over the top. Honestly, like over the top. And of course, we've always had that situation where some of these traps are, like, in my opinion, practically unwinnable. And I think that goes against John Kramer's whole philosophy, but it's something that we've seen time and time again, where these movies try to balance, giving you as much gore and making the traps as insane as possible. But also, John Kramer's got this mission to give them a chance to live, but in some instances, it's damn near impossible. And I'll get into more of that later, like I said. But the simple storyline, I don't mean simple in a bad way, but just the storyline here where you get to follow John Kramer in his quest to try to get some help for his cancer and the people that he meets along the way. And he's actually living kind of like a normal human being, albeit one with cancer. But, he's actually talking to people like normal. And when he's wronged, that's the wrong person to wrong. You don't mess with John Kramer, and they messed with the wrong dude in this movie, and you can relate to his situation. Most of us have been, okay, maybe not to the extent in this movie, but we've all been scammed. We've all been wronged in the past by some of these scammers out there, basically. So that's kind of the setup, but I won't get into it any more than that. Just to say that this movie, shockingly good, and just, I don't know what else to say about it. I can't wait to watch this one again. This one was a lot better than I expected. A lot better than I expected. Okay, very few flaws, and maybe for a lot of people, they'll say this is the best of the franchise. I don't think I can go that far, but I'm going to think about where it's going to be, and it's going to be somewhere high. Saw X, check it out.